loved ones, friends and family the day of the attacks. They united their voices on Friday, just a few miles from the Trump National Golf Course here in Bedminster, New Jersey. They are outraged at Donald Trump for hosting the Saudi-backed event, even after FBI documents that were released last year showed that the Saudi hijackers involved in the attacks allegedly received support from Saudi officials. The former president recently defended this league and this tournament that was held the last few days, which drew big names in golf with promises of millions of dollars in guaranteed paydays. New Jersey firefighter Frank Sutphin, who not only responded to the World Trade Center site the day of the attacks, but also lost 3 close friends and fellow firefighters, took to the podium on Friday speaking on behalf of those 9/11 families who feel that their concerns are not being heard by the former commander-in-chief.
Justice is all we want. Just, you did it, owe up to it. And you know, listen, I'll be honest, I was a Trumpster. And excuse me for my language, but you're a real. How could you do that? You know, if you have FBI documents that we finally know somebody did it, and we're not holding them accountable, at least say it.
Those 9/11 families who we heard from on Friday vowing they plan to once again raise their voices peacefully come the next LIV Golf tournament that's scheduled to take place at a Trump property that's scheduled for October. As for the Saudi government, they maintain that they were not involved both in the 9/11 attacks as well as the murder of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi in 2018. Polo Sandoval, CNN, Bedminster, New Jersey.
I've been telling people that now for the past 2 or 3 years, towards the perpetrators that was guilty of that, and how that the administration, hey, y'all settle down. How that administration, Bush administration, did not reveal it to the general public because of the close connection that they had with the Saudis pertaining to the oil and gas industry. We're going through a lot of stuff right here because I want to get directly into what I've already seen pertaining to the massive flooding in Kentucky. Please listen to this.
We need as much help. Please, I'm begging anyone who sees this. Help my town. Help my people.
Misery, devastation, and fear for the missing as historic flooding in Kentucky leaves residents questioning their future. And will she or won't she? Uncertainty building on whether House Speaker Nancy Pelosi will visit Taiwan during her visit to Asia. We'll have a live report from Beijing. Plus, political chaos in Iraq as protests in Baghdad force sessions of parliament to be suspended.
That's another hot cinder that's just waiting to turn into a fire over there pertaining to what's going on with Iran. We got some really, really, really harsh, crazy, insensitive, cruel, bad things coming around the pike. I just pray for a divine intervention pertaining to a miracle, and I pray for a divine revival, because whenever you see the world exploding this way, something big is on the horizon. I don't know. I mean, it's a horrible, horrible, horrible big thing towards what happened with Russia in regard to Ukraine. It's extremely horrible pertaining to all these massive natural catastrophes. But this is going even beyond that.
Live from CNN Center, this is CNN Newsroom with Kim Bruegel.
It's 5 a.m. in eastern Kentucky, an area that's already suffered through days of heartbreak and anguish after massive flash floods. And it's waking up this morning to more dreaded news. More heavy rain is on the way. A flood watch is now in effect, and that's raising concerns about the ongoing search and rescue operations. At least 25 people have been killed, and that number includes 4 children, all from the same family. Their aunt telling us they were siblings between 2 and 8 years old. Neighbors say the parents tried to hold on to them, but the young children were swept away.
There was a house there and this trailer with this family of 6, and it just washed them away.
Kentucky's governor says it's not known how many people are still missing, but says the death toll could rise for weeks as bodies are discovered. Washed out roads and dozens of destroyed bridges are slowing those efforts, and with at least hundreds of homes destroyed, the misery seems to deepen by the hour.
Lord, Lord.
It's hard to put into words just the amount of devastation that we've seen. You know, you're talking about some really, really good people here in Eastern Kentucky. You know, don't have a whole lot, and a lot of them have lost everything they've got.
For some residents of Eastern Kentucky, the true scale of their own loss is becoming heartbreakingly real. CNN's Evan Morris-Santoro has that.
So sad.
When the flash flood came to this part of Kentucky, locals watched houses, cars, their lives get submerged by water, wondering just what kind of damage would be done. Now that those waters have receded, they're getting a chance to see it. A huge swath of destruction across many counties in this area, and crews still going out trying to find people who may be trapped in their homes, may need resupply in their homes, and may have perished when those waters came through. One local here in Breathitt County described the impact on this area of these floods.
Thinking about all the devastation that I've seen all over the county, there's some things that can't be rebuilt. There's people that their water had got in homes that had never been concerned with water issues. Now their homes are gone. Where are all these people going to go? Where are they going to live if they don't have a family member that they can go to?
Here in Jackson, crews are staging from this shopping center parking lot, going out and trying to find people amongst the destruction. People say it's going to be a long time before this place recovers at all, and it's going to need a lot of help to get there. Evan McMorris-Santoro, CNN, Jackson, Kentucky.
The sheer scale of the devastation is hampering rescue and recovery efforts. CNN spoke to the mayor of Hazard, Kentucky, and he explained the challenges his town was facing in the search for the missing and identifying the dead, and he thinks that toll will rise much higher. Here he is.
Set up a city hall in their corner, set up, and people came in all day long with pictures and photos of the relatives that are missing, and you know, just any type of parking. Because I mean, you know, this is sad to say, but we've got a team of coroners here working the 3-county area with cadaver dogs, and so just trying to find people and identify people. And you know, I know they say we've got 3 dead at this time, but I talked to the county judge at Knott County and Breathitt County, and it's over 30 some total for just our 3 counties, and that's just, I think that's just the tip of the iceberg, truthfully.
All right, let's bring in CNN meteorologist Derek Van Dam. Derek, I'm thinking of the search and rescue efforts, and that window of decent weather is closing fast, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. In fact, regrettably, we've got some disturbing information now, just new to us here at CNN. We've read the latest updates from the Weather Prediction Center. They update about 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and they have now included southeastern Kentucky, the area that was hardest hit by the flooding, in a moderate risk of flash flooding today through Monday morning. That is a level 3 out of 4. Some of the wording that they used in their description is very strong as well. I'll read it verbatim. They say that it is going to become, or it is looking likely, that a favorable setup for very efficient rainfall is going to take place through today and overnight tonight and into Monday morning. So the potential for flash flooding increasing across, unfortunately, southeastern sections of Kentucky. Let me show you the flood watches in place. Anywhere you see that shading of green, Bowling Green, all the way to Hazard, Pikeville. These areas really saw the brunt of the heavy rainfall, ranging from 9 to 14 inches last week. Now we can see on the latest radar showers starting to pick up in intensity, and it will continue to do so, becoming more numerous and more widespread through the course of the day. And the potential, and I want you to pay attention to this, because the potential to see multiple rounds of showers and thunderstorms across this area exists. This is a term that meteorologists refer to as training of storms, so thunderstorms that move over the same location for several hours at a time, not really giving any relief and really accumulating the rainfall significantly for this area. Remember, there's a lot of mountainous terrain across this region. This is known as the Appalachians, so the water has to go somewhere, so it funnels down into these ravines. The valley is often where the majority of the people reside, and we have to look out for this particular area in and around the Perry County region, near Hazard, Jackson, for instance, the areas that were hit hardest by the flooding, for the potential for 2 to 4 inches, with wording directly from the Weather Prediction Center, locally higher amounts. So that is certainly a possibility. And compounding the misery here is not only the flooding, but the heat and humidity that will build by the middle to end of next week, or this week rather. So temperatures there will reach the middle 90s, with heat indices reaching the upper 90s quite easily. Kim?
I remember whenever I went down to southern Mississippi in helping with the Katrina damage down there. After Katrina had hit, and this was in January, so there was probably about 3 months that went by towards cleaning up the basic essentials as far as the road structure, where people could at least get to and fro and from. But I remember feeling the sense that everything in that area was absolutely disturbed. And whenever I say disturbed, I'm talking about the birds, I'm talking about the crawfish, I'm talking about the bugs, I'm talking about anything else, because after Katrina hit, it was still smoldering hot down there, and the humidity was so bad. It was just like walking into a steam sauna or something. And the vegetation and the animal life and the human life, you could just sense the disturbances and the anger, the misery, the sorrow. I went into several churches down there, and some of the churches was really, really decent towards wanting to know more about the Bible and God and get closer to God, and some of them was absolutely appalling whenever it come to what had happened towards them blaming God for that tragedy that hit in that area. And I've noticed that 1 or 2 things is going to occur involving a major catastrophe like that either you're going to have a group of people that's going to be hardened, that much more hardened against the Heavenly Father, towards blaming these things on God rather than blaming them on the devil, or you're going to have a group of people that's going to soften and humble themselves and become more susceptible in wanting to hear more about God, in wanting to get closer to God. And the parallels between the two is so incredibly strong whenever something like this happens. Even whenever the people east of here, over in Middle Tennessee, in a little town called Waverly, at first all you feel is commitment, humbleness, people sighing because of the loss of the town, the loss of the structures, and the loss of the human life. But then afterwards, you get the feeling of how many people that are just absolutely outraged because of what has occurred. And of course, that's the human characteristics towards anything or anybody that's going to feel and react that way after a catastrophe, a catastrophic catastrophe hits in your area. It is so grossly sad in what we're seeing right now all over the planet in regards towards environmental global warming.
More misery upon misery. All right, Derek Van Dam, thanks so much. Well, earlier I spoke with Zach Caudle in Whitesburg, Kentucky. He's a victim of the flooding there, but he's also working to help others. And I asked him to describe the conditions he's facing and the challenges he's dealing with. Here he is.
It's complete devastation. It's just our hometown is utterly wrecked. Our entire region has been hit insanely hard. It's something that you never would have thought would happen, and now in the blink of an eye, everything's just going.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of the people out there who are waiting to be rescued, I mean, they're the elderly, they're you know, patients in hospitals and so on. I understand you've been helping some patients, trying to get them to safe ground. Tell us about that.
Yes, I've been trying to organize to get cancer patients within my community transportation to the Markey Cancer Center in Lexington, Kentucky. That way we can make sure that in this time of need, people still recognize the prominent danger of cancer in our community, and that cancer patients still need the attention that they require.
More information about how you can help victims of the Kentucky flooding, go to cnn.com/impact.
/impact.
Well, after testing negative for COVID on 4 consecutive days, President Joe Biden has tested positive again.
Hey folks, Joe Biden here. Tested positive this morning. We'll be working from home for the next couple of days. And feeling fine, everything's good. But Commander and I got a lot of work to do.
He had very publicly gone back to work just 4 days earlier. Now the president is back in isolation. CNN White House reporter Kevin Liptak has more.
President Biden says he's got no symptoms after testing positive for COVID again. The White House doctor says he's doing quite well, and President Biden even told some folks on the phone earlier today that he was working out in the White House gym. So medically, he certainly seems to be doing fine. But this is a disappointment for President Biden after it really seems like he was finished with coronavirus after testing negative last week. And the White House said that he tested negative each day since Tuesday evening, but he did have a positive test on an antigen test earlier Saturday morning. And so the president will be isolating here at the White House. The White House did have to cancel a number of out-of-town trips that the president had scheduled, but he does have his dog here to keep him company. It was only 4 days ago that the president emerged from the White House really sort of triumphant after testing negative for coronavirus. What the White House says is that they were testing him each day, but he did throw that positive test this morning. What they're really attributing it to is this antiviral drug Paxlovid that he had been taking. There are some rare instances of people first testing negative and then testing positive again after taking Paxlovid, and President Biden does now seem to be in the faction of people for whom that is true. The White House had sort of downplayed the prospect that this could happen over the course of the president's illness, noting how few people that is happening to, but they did say that it could be a possibility, and for that reason they upped the president's testing cadence. They had him wear a tight-fitting mask around the White House. Now he will have to go back into isolation. His wife is away from the White House. She isn't at their home in Delaware, so it will be another weekend home alone for the president. He will be able to leave isolation again when he next tests negative.
Lord.
Kevin Liptak, CNN, the White House.
There is a logical explanation for why President Biden was at risk of COVID-19 rebound positivity. Here is CNN medical analyst Dr. Jonathan Reiner.
The president's Paxlovid rebound, I think, was entirely predictable. Older data suggests that maybe Paxlovid rebound was a kind of a rare event, maybe happening in about 1% of people who got Paxlovid. But apparently now with BA.5, it's much more frequent than that. Maybe somewhere between 20 to 40% of people who take 5 days of Paxlovid will rebound with symptoms and a return of their positivity. So when the president tested negative this week, many of us thought it was likely that he would have rebounded, and that's exactly what we're seeing now. The good news is that an immunocompetent person like the President of the United States, even at age 79, with these rebound symptoms, this should be very short-lived and not really a threat to his health.
And our thanks to CNN medical analyst Dr. Jonathan Reiner there.
Keep the president in prayer.
New York City has declared a public health emergency due to the growing outbreak of monkeypox. It's the second major American city to do so, following San Francisco earlier this week. New York's governor says cases in the state account for more than 1 in 4 of the national total. In a statement, officials say New York City is currently the epicenter of the outbreak, and we estimate that approximately 150,000 new New Yorkers may currently be at risk for monkeypox exposure.
Lord God, we're going to have to go through all this again. Unbelievable.
Business strategy for us. It's not a sustainability strategy first and foremost. It's a business strategy and it is sustainable. But we can clearly see that through this transformation, we are actually getting increasingly competitive.
With Senator Joe
Navy Day parade. Moscow says a Ukrainian drone hit the headquarters of Russia's Black Sea Fleet in Sevastopol today. 5 people were injured. The attack happened while Russian forces were celebrating their Navy Day holiday. But after the strike, the official said the rest of the celebrations in Sevastopol were canceled. Meanwhile, Ukraine is ordering civilians in the Donetsk area to get out. President Zelensky says hundreds of thousands of people are still in the region, which is in the crosshairs of the main Russian offensive, and he says the goal is to save lives. Here he is.
There's already a governmental decision about obligatory evacuation from Donetsk region. Everything is being organized. Full support, full assistance, both logistical and payments. We only need a decision from the people who have yet not made it for themselves. Please follow evacuation. We will help you. We are not Russia. We would do everything possible to save the maximum number of human lives and to maximally limit Russian terror.
In the south, the Russian artillery isn't giving the city of Mykolaiv a break. It's been taking Russian fire almost every day for the past month, but several hours ago the city saw what was likely its strongest shelling since the beginning of the war, according to its mayor. He also says there was damage and casualties. Our reporters are standing by with the latest on those developments. Jason Carroll is in Kyiv, but first let's go to Nick Roberts.
Just a waste, just a total waste. I just don't understand why this is happening. Mean, cruel, evil, demonic, wicked, insensitive. Sad.
Russia is in requires some very decisive decision-making on the part of the Russians, decisive actions on the part of the Russians. And the way that he phrased that was that he said that Russia is going to deploy the Zircon hypersonic missile very soon. This is a hypersonic missile that the Russians tested in May successfully and now want to bring into service as quick as possible. Of course, this hypersonic missile technology is really something, Kim, where the Russians believe they have an edge over their adversaries, specifically over the United States. They believe this is not something that, for instance, missile defense systems could cope with. The Russians allegedly have already used hypersonic missiles, the Kinjal hypersonic missile, which is air-launched in the invasion of Ukraine. And this Zircon missile is now set to be deployed on the Admiral Gorshkov frigate, which is actually one of Russia's most modern frigates, and also apparently has stealth technology as well. So that's the part of what happened today during this parade. Again, always obviously a lot of ships on display, a lot of pomp, a lot of music, a lot of people out in the crowd as well. One of the things that we didn't hear very much of, or not at all, was Russia's what they call the special military operation in Ukraine, which obviously is also seeing the Russian Navy playing a big role in that as well, launching missiles, for instance, Caliber cruise missiles at Ukrainian territory. But the Russians, of course, have also taken a lot of naval losses, and that's something that, of course, we've been reporting about. For instance, the flagship of the Black Sea Fleet, the Moskva destroyer, was hit by Ukrainian missiles and sank, which was a huge deal for the Ukrainians. There was also a Russian landing craft which got destroyed in the port of Berdyansk. And then, of course, there was the battle for Snake Island, which in the end the Ukrainians decided for themselves, also a Russian ship being sank as that was going on. So certain things that you know were mentioned a lot today, but you did see a big show of force, as is customary on the part of Vladimir Putin, on the part of the Russian Navy, and obviously saying that the Russian Navy very important to Russia's defense and Russia's military doctrine, Kim.
Yeah, interesting. Thanks. Great to get that update from you, Fred Plykin in Moscow. Really appreciate it.
The city, but of course there is that onus on now the political factions to take part in discussions, in dialogue. That has been called upon them by the Iraqi Prime Minister and the Iraqi President. They are expecting to gather leaders of the political factions within Iraq's parliament over the coming days. When that will happen is still unclear, but they have urged all political leaders to take part in these discussions to reach some sort of resolution to ease what we've seen in the last few months, which is an absolute political deadlock in trying to form a government. And of course, people have grievances over who will take that position as Prime Minister, but also around the current situation in Iraq when it comes to the economy and social life there. We've heard from people speaking to CNN teams on the ground, talking about the high unemployment rate, the rising food prices. People are really struggling there, and there is a real sense of frustration around the government's inability to really get its act together and stabilize the political outlook for Iraq. Kim?
All right, thanks so much, Nana Bashir. Appreciate it. When we come back, just what Kentucky doesn't need: more heavy rain in the forecast. And crews are making progress against a large wildfire burning near California's famed Yosemite National Park, but other fires in the state are getting worse. We'll hear from firefighters on the scene coming up. Stay with us.
What a lot of people don't realize is that regardless whether it's a fire or a flood, it's not only tearing up and destroying property and destroying lives, but it's costing several $100 million per episode, regardless whether it be a flooding episode or a horrendous fire episode, just to be able to deal with that particular situation. And we're not just talking about millions, we're talking about billions. Billions of dollars have been lost in the response of the Great Flood in eastern Kentucky, and now they're talking about even more flooding coming that area. So Mother Nature ain't wanting to cooperate with the Homo sapiens in the form of it either being entirely too dry or entirely too wet. And once again, whenever it comes to the situation with 9/11, I've been trying to tell people for a great length of time about how that certain agents have been able to put the dots together in proving that the finances that financed 9/11 come directly from that kingdom, the Saudi Arabia kingdom. They can prove where the money come from, which once more validates the stuff that I've been talking about pertaining to the prince and the king over there that masterminded all this, that to this day still has not been held accountable for their actions. I don't get it. I never would have thought that the United States would have been willing to have overseen or pardoned something like this on this level. And it just makes me sick at my stomach to think that these was the very people that I've been talking about now for 30 some odd years that now is merging towards being the dark evil ones. So sad to see so much grief and so much anguish. It's almost as if since COVID has hit, the world has gone absolutely crazy.
Is right here. And to tell these stories, we're talking about families. That is the most important thing. I'm Clarissa Ward in Ukraine. This is CNN.
I'm Wolf Blitzer. This is CNN.
Welcome back to all of you watching us here in the United States, Canada, and around the world. I'm Kim Brunhuber. This is CNN Newsroom. Let's return to our top story. There's more heavy rain in the forecast for already devastated Kentucky. The Weather Prediction Center has issued a 3 out of 4 moderate risk for excessive rainfall across the southeastern part of the state today. Historic flooding from earlier in the week has killed at least 25 people, and one local mayor says that's just the tip of the iceberg. Raging floodwaters have wiped out countless homes, roads, and bridges. The governor says the damage could amount to hundreds of millions of dollars and the infrastructure could take years to rebuild. But we're also hearing stories of courage. This 17-year-old spent hours on the roof of her neighbor's home escaping the danger with her dog. Just one example of hundreds of people who are now having to dry out and figure what to do now that floodwaters have ripped apart their lives.
I don't know what we're going to do. We don't have no place to live now or anything.
The water got about up to there. We had about this much more room before we got flooded, and I've never seen it that high. We came out of the house and it was so swift that even a jet ski was hard for him to handle, and he took us out one at a time.
A couple who survived the floods spoke earlier to CNN's Pamela Brown, showing her the damage. David Gillespie and his wife Holly were in Lost Creek, which is one of the worst hit areas. Hello.
You can kind of see over here, over the Doran Hoffler Memorial Bridge, you can see some of the garbage that's still over here, and you can actually see how high the water has come. It has really just come up an incredible height, all the way over the bridge, and even enough to bring a lot of, oops, sorry about that, bumping into people here. A lot of garbage has come up. There's even some framework for homes, a lot of garbage, a lot of personal belongings. The more you go down the river, the more things that you see. It's just incredible devastation. And so, man, it's really sad to see, but like I said, a lot of community members have really come together and been very helpful.
And the Gillespies have been helping deliver supplies and rescuing people by boat. And in addition to helping people, they say they're also bringing supplies for animals. Now, catastrophic flooding isn't just happening here in the U.S. According to Iran's Red Crescent Society, the death toll from recent floods and landslides there has risen to at least 59, and at least 30 people are still missing in Tehran and 3 other provinces, according to Iranian officials. On Saturday, President Ibrahim Raisi toured some of the devastated areas. From the air, he surveyed damage caused by days of floods that affected 400 towns and villages. Rescue operations are ongoing. And in Pakistan, rain may finally be letting up in areas hit by massive flooding, but the monsoon deluge has already taken a toll, killing at least 384 people.
Wow.
Now here you see a town in northern Pakistan inundated by floods on Saturday, but it didn't stop some of the street vendors working there in ankle-deep water. The The majority of rain over the next few days is expected to be in central and eastern parts of the country. California's governor has declared a state of emergency for some of the northernmost parts of the state as multiple wildfires prompt evacuations. Meanwhile, in central California, the Oak Fire threatening the famed Yosemite National Park is now more than 50% contained. Crews have largely managed to halt its spread. The Oak Fire has destroyed more than 100 homes so far. CNN's Bill Weir is there.
It actually started right around here?
It started right over here, this ridge over here.
Okay.
And in the first 24 hours, this fire grew 10,000 acres.
Now put that in perspective. That's crazy fast.
That's crazy fast.
The Oak Fire is the biggest fire in California. And because fire season winds haven't really started blowing yet, there are almost 4,000 firefighters here from all corners of the state. They managed to keep flames out of Yosemite National Park, but not the smoke. And they say they won't fully contain this blaze for weeks.
So what makes this Oak Fire especially scary, though, is it devastated a lot of land really fast, and the winds aren't howling like they would be
Correct.
for Santa Ana's or Diablos, right?
Correct. That's correct. And we're in extreme conditions, but things can always get worse.
Any ecologist will tell you that a healthy forest needs occasional fire to rejuvenate itself. But ever since World War II, Smokey the Bear has been preaching fire suppression. And across much of California, all this fuel has been loading up over the decades. A fire drought, really, just in time for the old-fashioned drought. A 22-year mega drought. This combination now making Californians rethink everything they know about property values and insurance markets and defensible spaces.
In the course of my career, I've seen the biggest fire happen year after year after year.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
Now, no offense, you don't look like a grizzled veteran, but it's not the years, it's the fires these days, I guess, right?
It's the fires.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, to that fact, these fires have been happening within the last 10, 15 years. I mean, you can go back to 2003, and then all of a sudden something happened.
I wonder about folks who live in amazing spots like this. A great find in the 70s when the fire like this was once in a lifetime.
Sure.
Now it's once every couple of years.
Yes, sir.
Do you see it changing the psychology of folks in these wild places?
It takes a special person to come live out here, and we just hope that if you do decide to live out here, that you learn how to prepare yourself, prepare your property, get prepare an emergency escape plan, and create some defensible space. Like as you see here, this person did a great job at clearing out some combustible vegetation and brush away from this fire.
And these guys will take all the help they can get in doing this job, especially when it's 96, 97 degrees outside here as well. They've got a couple dozen helicopters, over 300 fire engines, a bunch of water tankers and all of that. But ultimately it comes down to sometimes how much yard work they have to do around a house that hasn't been properly hardened against fire. And again, this is just the beginning of the fire season now. The deadliest months typically are in the fall out west after a couple more dry, hot months. And this is a mutual aid state. You put out my fire, I'll help put out yours. At a certain point, they worry there are too many fires to go around. Bill Weir, Mariposa, California.
Simmering tensions between the U.S. and China over a possible but unconfirmed trip to Taiwan led by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. We'll go live to Beijing after the break. Stay with us.
We're going to leave it there, pertaining to the miseries and the sorrows going on all over the world. I just cannot understand why Donald J. Trump would have gotten involved with the Saudi Arabian associates involved in that golf tournament, and it's so close to being up here at New York City. I mean, you talk about that's very cold, very inconsiderate. Thank you for listening. Good luck. God bless America. God bless our endeavors, and good luck to all of us. Shalom.